Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's, everyone. Yeah. I just wanted to do well, not gonna be short. I was thinking, I don't really have much to update since my last video, but one thing that I've been thinking about a lot is, many of you actually don't know my testimony, and a lot of my supporters and friends and family. So I actually want to take time in this news video to share my testimony, my journey with just how I got to where I am now. But before I jump into that, I'll just talk about things that have happened briefly since the last video, like High BA. We did a Christmas party thing for the students, and we're currently on winter break, but we'll be picking it back up in January. With YWAM, we are currently on winter break. We'll be starting up next week, and we'll see what the Lord's going to just lead YWAM Tokyo. I already feel like he's been talking to me about direction for intercession, things like that. So that'll be pretty fun. We're going to be doing Living Room, the ministry that I'm part of. We're going to be doing one more. And then we're going to be going on to a hiatus as we try to figure out what it looks like now, because the original founding members of it, who carried a lot of the DNA for how it went, left. And so we need to figure out what it looks like with us leading it now. Because if we try to mimic and do it their way, we're going to end up just messing up and probably not doing it effectively. And we need to figure out how we are best suited to carry this and impart our DNA into Living Room. And so, praise report on that front. I asked about a cajon. The cajon that I've been using was originally going to be leaving, but the owners decided to bless me with it, so I have a cajon, so I can still serve with worship ministries that I'm a part of. So very happy. So yeah, I'm just going to jump into my testimony, and I hope it encourages people, because I really feel strongly that our testimonies are important to share, with each other, with believers and with non-believers. I truly believe they encourage and they strengthen and remind us, remind the people we're speaking to about the faithfulness of God. And to the non-believers, it shows them through your own journey and testimony just what living with God, walking with God is like. And I think particularly for the Japanese, hearing about the scriptures, it's one thing, but when they hear about someone who's lived it out and is living it out, and can hear about how the faithfulness of God the Father has been in them, the healing and transformation they've gone through, it speaks to them and it makes them hungry for it. And so it's something I really feel strongly we should be sharing our testimonies, and we should not be ashamed. And our testimonies overcome the enemy. And so I want to encourage you all, if you have testimonies, to share them. No testimony is too small. And our testimonies are constantly growing. Like mine is still going to this day. So yeah, I was trying to figure out how to do this, but I'll just start. Like most of you know, I was born in a Christian family with amazing parents, 3 amazing older siblings. They've poured into me. They loved me. And I was always a shy kid, but I would still kind of, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. It was very evident, I think, in my opinion, I could be wrong. As a young kid, I had leadership qualities. Even though I was shy, I still had something in me. And so one of the funny things is 4th grade, I still don't know how I somehow got elected on student council. I don't know how that happened, but I was well known, and while I was afraid and shy of talking to people, I would still try when asked upon and stuff like that. But in 5th grade, something happened with one of my teachers where I was asked to read in front of the class, and I misspoke a simple word, and the teacher kind of led the charge on making fun of me in front of the entire class. And that damaged something in me that took almost 20 some odd years to heal. And because of that one incident, I shut down and I did not want to put myself in a place of being vulnerable, being open, of leading people. I thought it's just better to be behind the scenes, to stay hidden. Don't take chances because the pain's not worth it. And I carried that for the most of my life. And then naturally through school, I was just kind of there. And especially when I got into high school, I was a Christian, but it's more so because of my family. My parents, not so much I truly believed. Like I remember we had like Christian athletes, which I didn't care to go to and stuff like that. But I was struggling with the Lord, but I never would admit it. I would just go to church out of obligation. And one of the most important things that happened to me during high school was I played football. And I was fairly good. I was pretty good. I was talented. But something happened in there where through the school losing my finals, they said I failed. And so I never got to play in any of the tryout games. And so I immediately got put like on the second or third string. And it really affected me because I was kind of carried a mentality like if I just would be given my shot, I could prove it. And it always felt like I never could get my shot in anything. And football was a big one. And in football, the coaches, I think, recognized my talent and they tried to push me. But me being a high schooler, I responded in the opposite way I think they wanted me to, and I shut down. And I blamed them. And I quit on the team. And I walked away from it, not in the best way, too. And for the longest time, I carried a grudge against the coaches and blamed everyone for like my failure in sports and football. If you've seen Napoleon Dynamite, I kind of had an Uncle Rico mentality where I kind of was like, man, if coaches just would have given me a shot, I could have taken us far. Like I really lived in that. And I just basically blamed. And I carried that through high school, and that compiled with like the whole like not wanting to like the leadership quality that was damaged in fifth grade, and not wanting to be a voice. I just started to feel more hidden and more neglected, I guess you can say. And it really kind of started to take a toll in my senior year, where towards the end I just started to really become numb inside, and I was just shutting down in a lot of ways. But like I still was doing school and hanging with friends, but like every time I was alone, I just felt very numb and lonely. And then in the midst of that, towards the end of my senior year, a friend of the family's, they are Japanese, and they went to a Japanese church. And the pastor of that church, his son, who lived in Japan in a place called Tokuyama, wanted an American to come and help with the youth camp. And initially my brother was asked, and he said no. And his reason, I don't know if he remembers, is because there's no surf. And so they thought about it. And around this time, I started actually gain interest in my Japanese side. I hadn't really cared about it for the longest time, but I'd started to. And that's when, after asking my brother and he said no, they approached me. And this is going to be funny to say, I was so numb inside that without hesitation, I was like, yeah, I'll go. I want to go to Japan. And this is where I think it's funny, because I think it was God that I was numb, which is weird, because if I wasn't numb inside, I don't think I would have gone, for this one reason. I hated spending the night at people's houses when I was young. I hated being away from the family. I hated traveling and all the other stuff. And so I think I had to be numb inside, because I did not think about the fact that I was going to another country by myself for like 3.5 months to go live with people that I never met. And yeah, so I said yes. And then I graduated high school, and immediately, I think like a week after graduation, I went to Japan. And I broke down crying on my very first night, because it hit me on what I said yes to. And I was like, I left my family. I'm in a new country. Where am I? And it was cool because it was hard, but that started me on a journey where I've noticed a lot of things with God where my greatest growth is where I am separated from everything else that I trust, rely, and love. And during that time in Japan, he had me, I was alone a lot. And that's when he spoke to me a lot. And he spoke to me in the numbness. I was drawing, and I had been drawing random stuff, and he started speaking to me. He's like, "You're called to Japan." And I was like, cool. And then he started talking to me about, like, he's like, "You're going to do something that's going to change this nation. And it's going to be your art. And you're going to create stories that are going to change the nation." And that's when I was like, I know I'm called to Japan. And he started to grow me, and I started to get really passionate, excited for it. And my love for Japan really, in that time, just grew. Like, I fell in love with the people, the environment, just everything about it. It was one of the most beautiful places. And I fell in love with it. And then my 3.5 months ended, and I came back home. And yeah, my video needs to stop because I need to cut into part 2. So I will continue that in a moment.